Good afternoon. How are you this afternoon? That was pathetic. Give that another go. How are you this afternoon? Ooh, much better. Fantastic. Thank you for having me. I've got you for the next 20 minutes of your life, and you're never going to get that 20 minutes back. So I'm going to use it as wisely as I can. I love that quote from Mary Oliver, that one wild, precious life that you have. So thank you for giving me 20 minutes of your one wild, precious life. We have one life to do absolutely everything we plan to do, so let's not waste it. I once saw a guy give a speech, and he had a massive ticker above his head that counted down his life expectancy. He had 34 years to go for his life expectancy, and it was counting down in seconds, and it really bothered me. I wanted him to get the hell off so I could get on with my life. So we shall get on with it. So I am the CEO of Sunrise Cambodia, and we fund a network of schools and health centres in one of the poorest countries in the world. And I guess I've had a bit of a reputation over the years for bringing fun to things that are really difficult to talk about. Originally, I was the CEO of a charity, and we cured childbirth injuries in Ethiopia. This was really tragic, difficult work to be doing. But essentially, we were curing smashed up vaginas in Africa. That's what we were doing. And we had to make it something that we could talk about. If you really focus on the horror all the time, you get compassion fatigue. I would get compassion fatigue, and our audience certainly would. So to make things fun, people are more likely to listen when you do have something really serious to say. So at Sunrise Cambodia, we're about to launch our Christmas appeal. And one of the biggest problems in Cambodia is basic sanitation. Most people in Cambodia don't have access to a toilet in their home or in their workplace. Imagine going to work today and there being no toilet there. How awful. Only costs $350 to put a toilet in a home in Cambodia. And the second that you do that, sexual assault rates plummet because no one's having to tiptoe outside at night. So it's such an amazing solution, such a simple, cheap solution. So our Christmas appeal is called Crappers for Cambodia. And we are planning to put poverty in the potty. So flush us with cash and we will do the dirty work. So I have this awesome intern at the moment. Her name is Mary, and I came up with a really cool title for a blog. So we're going to blog all the way through to Christmas. And this really cool title is What a Difference a Dunny Makes. Can you tell I love alliteration? It makes me so happy. Crappers for Cambodia, difference a dunny makes me so happy. And so I sent her an email that just said, what a difference a dunny makes. Dear Mary, could you please do some research on this subject matter for me? And autocorrect changed it to what a difference a funny makes. And so Mary spent a day researching the science of humour and fun, which kind of came in really handy for this speech. So she gave me this beautiful little platform, much of which I already knew from my childbirth education days. So about 12 years ago, I wrote the world's first childbirth education program, which is just for men, and it's run in pubs all over Australia. I figure if you take someone and you put them in their natural habitat, they are more likely to listen. And you put a beer in their hand and they're having a good time, and then you mansplain it to them and it's sorted. So beer and Bubs is still running in pubs all over Australia. And in writing that program, I had to get my head around a complex medical subject and to make it fun so that it was going to be listened to. But some of the core to that is understanding the chemistry of love. Oxytocin is the hormone of love, and you produce oxytocin when you're in labour, when you're breastfeeding, and when you're having an orgasm. Or if you're really lucky, you're in labour and you have an orgasm, which actually is possible. That stuff does happen. Google it. So oxytocin is a gorgeous hormone, and midwives actually produce oxytocin when they're there beside a woman who gives birth, which is why midwives get addicted to birth. It feels so good. But adrenaline blocks oxytocin. So it's really difficult to feel good, to be bonding, to have an orgasm if you're afraid. So you've got to feel that lovely softness and be open to bonding and open to warm relationships to get oxytocin to flow. Endorphins are your hormones that you produce when you're laughing, when you're having fun, and when you're exercising. So if the exercise that you do isn't fun, you're not getting half as much bang for your buck. You've got to find exercise that's really fun. I'm on the hunt for a yoga class with a comedian. I really want a yoga teacher who can just do a running commentary and make me laugh my ass off. Literally, I would love that. So that's what you're looking for. I have a friend, Jessica, who's a personal trainer, and she's so funny. My core has never been so strong as when I was training with her, because you just laugh the whole way through the session. So much fun. So look for exercise that's fun. The last one is dopamine. Dopamine is an absolute rock star of a hormone. And you produce dopamine when you're falling in love, when you're laughing, or when you're smoking crack cocaine. So your brain, pictures of brain activity look the same between smoking crack cocaine and falling in love. So my recommendation is do not make major decisions or drive a car when you're falling in love. You're freaking stupid. So those are your 3 rock star hormones. Humour is something that we all love and relate to. You know, you laugh and you feel good. And there's those chemicals running behind it all and making it happen. And that's why humour is the single most shared emotion on social media. The least shared is guilt. Guilt makes you feel bad, but humour is shared the most. So if you are in control of a brand strategy, I don't care what it is, if you are in control of a funeral home, you can share humorous content. I have a friend who's a celebrant, and she does 4 or 5 funerals a week, and she said you can make funerals funny. She said the best funerals are old school biker funerals. She said those are the funniest ones she's ever run. And she had one last week, a 92-year-old woman who had a really traditional church funeral, and the last song was Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. And she really just did that to stick it to her family, who all thought that the funeral home had made some terrible mistake with that ridiculous song. But you can have funny funerals, so you can make your brand or your personal brand funny. And that's the stuff that gets shared, and that's how you get that message out there. I think too that humour has an element, the science of humour and the way humour works, for me, is in that delivery of surprise and delight. So if you are trying to choose content that will be funny or a story that you think will work well, look for where you take the audience on a journey and they think they're going here, but then you land them there. And it's the surprise and delight of landing over here that makes you laugh. So that's sort of the underpinning of humour. I'll tell you a little story as an illustration. There's a boy who works for us in Cambodia, and his name's D. He's the nicest guy, and he met me at the airport last time I was there, and I asked this of most drivers. I just said, tell me your life story. And it's always fascinating. I said that to D, and he said, my parents were teenagers when Pol Pot marched on Cambodia. And they were in a village, and the army marched in. The boys were lined up in a row, the girls were lined up in a row, and they were told they were forced to marry the person they were standing opposite. And if they didn't, they'd be shot on the spot. And Dee's parents looked at each other, did not like what they saw one bit. They got married, they had 10 kids, they were in love until Dee's father died last year. So up yours, Pol Pot. Love can be found in the fields of Cambodia. So see, I was taking you somewhere, but I landed you somewhere else, and it's kind of fun. So I want to give you a few things to take with you into your workplace and into life, and they work for me. And the number one thing that makes work life fun is success and celebrating success. So when was the last time you really nailed something, you totally succeeded, and it wasn't fun? Success is so much fun. Celebrate that. Celebrate the small things. In my last role, we got to this massive milestone for fundraising, and my CFO at the time, this gorgeous boy, Alex, he's an absolute antidote to me. I'm the kind of person who goes, yeah, let's do that, and he'll go, oh, are we insured? So we work together well. He's very, very, very low-key, Alex, and he says, oh, excuse me, Lucy. I just thought I'd let you know we've cracked the $6 million mark. I went, are you kidding me? We should have had a big countdown thing and be making a total fuss of this amazing thing, this amazing milestone that we've reached. I said, Alex, when we hit the 7 million, we're going to be going up to that for months. I'm going to install this big basket above your desk, like a big net full of balloons and sparkles. There's going to be a rope. When we hit the 7 million, you are pulling that rope, you are flooding the office with balloons. And you know what he said? Oh, I'll do it on a Tuesday because the cleaners come on a Wednesday. It's like, dude, live a little, far out. So celebrate success. Do those, line up those things and see those milestones coming. We had an amazing end of financial year appeal, and we had to raise funds for vocational training in Cambodia. And my little team, I'd only pulled this team together this year. So 5 brand new team members working together, and we pulled off this appeal. We raised about $420,000 in 8 weeks. And that was up against some really negative media. An absolute ratbag of a journalist published an awful article about us. And all that did was actually purchase us more media than we could ever have afforded, and our income skyrocketed. So it worked out okay. But it was such a celebration that we did so well. And so I said to the team, let's go to Cambodia as a team. It's a big reward. And I was the only one who'd actually visited our projects until then. So the team went to Cambodia, and we had a really, really successful 10 days with the Khmer team there. Then at the end, so Lucy wants to celebrate success, I say, let's all go out for dinner. And then afterwards, because my team love this, let's all go out for karaoke. So I say to the Khmer team, you've got to come with us, come to karaoke. The head boss, like the most senior Khmer, said, oh no, I can't possibly. But then the others came, but they were all very awkward about it. So I thought, oh, never mind, we'll warm them up with like 17 beers, it'll be fine. So we go out to this karaoke place, and it's sensational. It's so fantastic. Better than anything I've seen in Sydney. It was massive, massive screen, like that big, and you have attendants, they open your beer for you. It's just fantastic. We had a great night. And then I still remember we ended on a fabulous rendition of By the Rivers of Babylon. And then it was time to go, and as I left, I twigged what was going on, why the team was so uncomfortable. And while we'd been singing, and we left at midnight, while we'd been singing, the foyer had sort of changed. And in Asia, karaoke bars, I now realise, are just a front for a brothel. So I'd taken our senior management team to a brothel. And the penny drops to me as we come out. The foyer is just lined with hookers. And we're walking out, and my new CFO, George, he's such a gorgeous guy. Again, perfect antidote to me. He's in his late 50s, and he's very polite. And we walk out, and George sees them all, and he goes, oh, all these lovely ladies. He's going, evening. And I'm going, George, keep going, get out of here. Far out. So in attempting to celebrate success, perhaps I should have paid a little bit more attention to the cultural differences, but never mind. Look at converting the mundane. This is one of my little rules of thumb. There are so many mundane things in our life, and look at the things that you have to do every day that are such a snore that you can make funny. Honestly, it's the best fun. So one of my boring tasks is collecting receipts for my travel. You've all got to do that, and you've got to marry it up with a boring credit card statement. I can't think of anything more boring. So what I've started to do is I'm supposed to take a photo of receipts, and then I email it to my digital manager, Imogen, who's somewhere in this audience. And I email them to her, so now I've given her a boring task. So that's boring for both of us. So now what I do is I take photos of these receipts in really bizarre places. And now I'm going to do like a Where's Wally theme, where I put the receipt somewhere really hard to find, and she's got to find it somewhere in the image. And I've done taxi drivers who do like selfies and hold the receipt, and it's taken this boring task, and it's the highlight of my day. I don't know about Imogen, but it's the highlight of mine. Board meetings, far out board meetings are boring. And not just boring, sometimes they're really combative and negative. And one of the first things I did when I joined Sunrise Cambodia was I bought our boardroom table. And it's a full-size ping pong table. So at the end of board meetings, we have a sudden death ping pong off, which I think is the only way to end board meetings. When I interviewed Imogen, who's here today, my digital manager, the only reason she got the interview was her surname is Champagne. I get the CV, and I think that is such a rock star surname. And if she's lying, I want to interview her anyway for creativity. So I get Imogen in for an interview. And that morning I'd had a call from the office. Oh, Lucy, we've got the Bondi hipsters are filming in the cafe across the road. They've stuck their head in the office and they've asked, can they please park their extras in our office for the day? I said, sure, after a big whopping donation, they can have what they like. So we had these 10 very good-looking, very well-groomed extras playing with their phones in our office for the day, and that was the day that Imogen shows up for her interview. So she walks in the door and says, oh, I'm here for an interview with Lucy Perry. I said, Imogen, this is Tim, and he's this ridiculously hot boy in a denim overalls. And I said, this is Tim, and he's going to take you through your ping pong paces. So he took her into the room out the back, and they played ping pong for 20 minutes. I actually forgot about her. I was working away. Eventually I hear her go, can we stop now? I'm getting really tired. And then we went and had the proper interview. But do that, it's a great way to interview. Nerves stop you from actually seeing the real person that you want to work with. And it was a great way of loosening her up. So look at those ways of converting the mundane. One of the other things I do that has been really helpful to me in managing anxiety is what I call a fantasy game. So you can lie there and freak out about what can go wrong, or you can lie there and get really happy about what could go right. And that's worked for years for me. When I was in hospital for a long time after a motorcycle accident, and I would fantasize about what I would do next. And it's such a helpful technique. My latest fantasy is about George Clooney. So in this fantasy, he's left that lawyer woman. And you know how in dreams you don't need practicality? Somehow me and George Clooney meet, and I take him snorkeling at Gordon's Bay. And you know where Gordon's Bay is, gorgeous snorkeling spot, and he loves it so much he decides to film a movie there, and so he moves into my house and he casts all my children in this film. Like, how good is this fantasy? Another fantasy I had just recently, I was just looking out, because we get lots of people walking past our office. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if the guy from Rake just stuck his head in and asked for directions? So cool. How much fun would that be? Way better than sitting there freaking out about whether we're going to meet our targets for this month. So use the fantasy game. Now I'm going to leave you with a quick story. And this story goes back to those hormones which have got to work in childbirth, far out. And this story kind of illustrates that no matter what you are doing, you can still have fun, even if you're giving birth. So my second child was due on New Year's Eve. And so I figured I'd be safe to have our huge, big neighbourhood shindig in the middle of December. And as guests started arriving to that party, so did the first contractions. And the first baby had taken 24 hours, so I was like, it's cool, I've got $200 worth of sausages to cook, I've got Santa coming at 8, I had stuff, I was so not in my uterus. But within half an hour, I couldn't speak through contractions. And I thought, I'm going to have to opt out of this, I can't do this. So I did the runner. I still remember bolting up the hallway, and the last I stopped at in the lounge room, and I cranked up the stereo because I was a very noisy birther the first time round. Knew I'd want to holler, cranked up the stereo. I still remember the song was My Sharona. I bolted into our bedroom, into the ensuite, flicked on the taps, jumped in the bath, tore my clothes off, jumped in the bath, turned around, and there was a friend of mine standing in my bathroom, rocking off a newborn. And I said, call the midwife, I'm having my baby. So she runs and does that. Meanwhile, someone had alerted my husband and said, I think you might want to check on Lucy. He turns up at the bathroom door, and at that very moment, the baby's head pops out. And I'm standing there, hands against the bathroom wall. She's in the anterior position, so she's looking at him. And he's standing in the doorway with a beer in his hand, going, what do I do? I said, put the beer down, you are catching this baby. And she rocketed out, like whoosh, out into Bruce's arms. He put her in my arms, and she was all gorgeous and gooey and vernixy, and the photos are perfect because I got a full face of makeup from the party. And then the midwife shows up. She did the business end of the deal. My husband went out to the party, killed the music, and said, I just delivered our baby girl. Could someone pass me a bowl for the placenta? So eventually I had a shower. I got back into the clothes I'd been wearing earlier, and I wrapped up my gorgeous baby, and I went out into the party and had champagne. And the little old lady I used to work with in Ethiopia who operated on the women with childbirth injuries, I was with her once when she told that story, and a nurse translated it for all the patients in the hospital. And at the end I got this crazy round of applause from the patients, and then the doctor said, "And that's how all Australian women give birth." So thank you for having me.